time for qualifying 1 in Greenland, and first up it was the Veloce team. Emma Gilmore in the car, taking the role of Jamie Chadwick this weekend and taking the flag as she went as well, going into the scrubland. Wasn't the perfect place for her, but she's really enjoying being part of the Extreme E family.
Yeah, very much got the car by the scruff of the neck, which was good to see. She looked like she was attacking a lot more than she was in free practice, with a 10-second penalty for that. That would hamper Sarazan somewhat as well. Still a good run from them. Nice to see them a little bit more on the pace.
Next up, JBXE, Jensen Button's team. It was Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski first off, but she suffered frustration with the car. Some gremlins in the works, and you could see there Kevin Hansen was in the command centre, and then
it got worse. Towards the end of the lap, she comes across the rock garden. Watch here, it's a huge hit on the front left wheel. That was broken steering. She got it back to the switch zone, but the car would go no further, a DNF.
Excite, they need a decent weekend. Christine GZ taking to the track first, and you can see beautiful conditions, the sun's shining, Russell Glacier in the background. She did a really steady job out there.
Both her and Ollie Bennett, I think, have been really reliable this year. They've been around the mid-pack. They're not challenging the top of the table. They're certainly not down at the bottom, and it would be P5 for them at the end of the session.
Abt Cupra up next, Jutta Kleinschmidt, Matthias Ekstrom, and Jutta taking that real place in the championship now as part of the team and doing a really impressive job out there.
They went some 30 seconds quicker than anyone had gone so far. I think they were hoping they might be right at the top of the timesheets come the end of the session. Either way, I think everybody could see they were going to be a threat this weekend. There are a lot of teams who are right on the pace.
Next up, it was the leaders of the championship. It was Rosberg X Racing. Now, they decided to go with a different strategy, putting Johan Kristoffersen in the car first, Molly Taylor second, and Kristoffersen irate with his run.
Yes, absolutely livid. Stopped the car 3 times out on the track, Kristoffersen, when they were looking like they were 10 seconds up at this point. He was screaming, hitting the steering wheel and the dash in the car, managed to get it reset and managed to get it back for Molly Taylor, but things didn't get any better.
Oh no, they did not. Molly Taylor there, upright and looking on, but now, watch what happens here. The back kicks up and lands awkwardly. The car does a 360. She gets it going again as if almost nothing has happened, but that was a very challenging moment for the team.
Yeah, brilliant job by Taylor to bring it home from here. Look at this, bad bounce, car goes up, rear right digs in. Luckily it's a soft roll, so it really was only damage to the bodywork, but a good job to bring it back, not though what the championship leaders wanted at the start of their weekend.
Next up, Segi TV, Chip Ganassi with Sarah Price and Kyle Leduc going over that rock garden, really hammering the car. They wanted a clean run today and to get some decent points.
Tactics from them as well. They were looking at the 5 points that they could get from the super sector. This was Kyle Leduc at the start of his run, having an issue at the exact same place as Molly Taylor. In the middle of the run, he did go quick in the super sector, but it was X44 who would be setting the pace overall in Q1.
Yeah, Gutierrez said she wanted to keep it calm, and that's exactly what she did. She was catching at this point, and she kept it smooth. The flow to it was really great, and she finished strongly, handing over to Loeb, who did this and set the fastest time.
Andretti United went with the same tactics as RXR, putting their rallycross driver into the car first of all. It was Timmy Hansen who was at the wheel. Great lap time by him. He, in fact, went fastest in the super sector, half a second quicker than Kyle Leduc had done on the previous run. But here, the car cuts out just as he's coming into the switch zone. Absolute disaster. He did get it there. Katie completed her lap, but not what they wanted.
No, and Science and Sounds did a really good job as well. They had a problem, though, when they came into the switch zone. Have a look what happens. Pulls into the wrong bay, has to realign. So a big mistake there for Carlos Sainz as he handed over to Leia Sands. Disappointment for the team.
Yeah, he pulled into the wrong bay first of all, which was time lost, but then also with this switch over, you can see Leia Sands' belts weren't done up. They lost 3 or 4 seconds before she was able to leave that switch zone. So not perfect, and on the second lap, not on the ultimate pace, but no problems, and plenty of other people had problems, so not a bad start.
So here's how it stands after qualifying round 1. Gutierrez and Loeb for X44 lead the way. They collect 9 points. Then it's Abt Cupra and Segi Ganassi.
On to Q2, and things went wrong for Veloce very early indeed. Stefan Sarazan behind the wheel, but unfortunately not behind the wheel any power steering. That makes the car extremely hard to drive. Sarazan, in fact, missed the first waypoint because he couldn't get the car turned in. Halfway through the run, he tried a reset, desperately trying anything, getting on the radio to the team, shouting for ideas, but they could not get it sorted. It wasn't an electrical issue, it was a mechanical issue, meaning they were going to carry it through the entire run for both Sarazan and Gilmore.
such frustration for them both. Weren't able to give the performance they knew they could, that they thought they had up their sleeves. And on it was to our second car, JBXC, with Kevin Hansen and Arlen Kotelinski. And I'm afraid there was more frustration on the way for them. They didn't have the greatest of first runs either. They didn't pick up a finish for them on the first run, so they were looking for redemption here, and it wasn't to come.
No, 1:40 up. It was looking like we were going to absolutely destroy the timesheets. Kevin Hansen's lap had been brilliant, but the car shut down on the way into the switch zone. Time lost, frustration for Jenson Button in the command centre. Arlen Kotelinski went out and did a good job on the second lap. They didn't lose too much more time, but it wasn't what it could have been.
No, frustration and bouncing along that rock garden as well. She actually did a fair bit of damage to that, had to park it up afterwards. She did manage to drag it across the finishing line, as you can see, but yeah, you can see there she's really struggling with the car, has to switch it off. So a lot of damage for that team.
Problems also for Excite Racing. So Ollie Bennett off the line and away, just struggling for power. He tried pulling the handbrake, tried doing resets on everything, seeing whether the brakes were stuck, had no power, then ended up with two-wheel drive, and it was a DNF for them.
Yeah, not the ideal way, but Abt Cupra got in the car, Ekstrom and Kleinschmidt. And I tell you what, Matthias Ekstrom went out there. He gave it full beans through the rocks.
He was absolutely flying. You could see he already had a rear left puncture at this point. That would have been time lost, obviously changing it in the switch zone, but unseen by us at this moment, he'd also picked up a rear right puncture. So double puncture coming in. They've got the kit down. They get set to work. The rear left comes off a treat. Kleinschmidt is in the car and ready to go. But when it came to changing the rear right, they could not get it done. And in fact, they had to retire the car in the middle of the course.
Yeah, it just would not budge off. They tried everything they could. Wasn't enough. Next up, it was Chip Ganassi and Carla Duke taking to the car. However, the run was hampered when, look, this is what happened. Andrew called it in commentary, saw the rear end come off, and if you look around the back of the car, that's why.
Yeah, Leduc with his hands in the air, he knows he hasn't done anything wrong there. Here's a replay of it. Look at this, it's not a big impact, but the rear left is gone. Then with the wheel at a slight angle, it just gets pulled completely off and wrecks the rear of the car. Price and Leduc really do need a change to their luck. They were super quick again here, and again, it's not paid off. Feeling pretty sorry for them because this, definitely not their fault. No driver error there, that's just a failed part.
And right at the bottom of the standings as well coming into this weekend, so they wanted to collect some big points. All is not lost for them though, but this was a masterclass. X44, Loeb, Gutierrez. Loeb went out there. We wanted a decent run from somebody, and the Hamilton team came up trumps.
Yeah, they did. Loeb was out really quick, and Gutierrez taking over from him. They were pretty cautious, and I think we knew that having won Q1, they didn't need to get it absolutely bang on in Q2. They just needed to get it home. They did that. It didn't look like they were pushing absolutely to the limit. So was there some space for the other teams to try and close them down? A few cars left to run in this session.
Gutierrez coming back from 2 ruptured vertebrae when she was in the Kazakhstan rally, so just incredible that she's actually here and competing. She's had a long recovery. They went fastest, they set the pace, but next up it was Andretti United and Munnings taking to the car.
Yeah, Katie Munnings out first of all, and I think they could sniff a good result here. With lots of cars having retired in Q2, you could find yourself a long way up the order with a decent time in this session. Munnings brought the car around 30 seconds down on Sebastian Loeb, but of course Loeb, a 9-time World Rally champion, and Katie Munnings doing a brilliant job. Wouldn't necessarily expect her to match his pace at this point, but she handed the car over to Hansen with a shot, and he chased down those green sectors.
Yeah, and the rain was coming down by this point. You could see the windscreen wipers on, off. You can see the tracks that they're leaving in the sand as well. That because it was just that much damper. Timmy Hansen clawing back time while he's going down to turn 16. This hard chicane with the Russell Glacier behind him, doing a really strong job in that Odyssey 21.
Yeah, brilliant by him. He got the gap down to around 4 seconds as they came into the rock garden. We thought he might just about get it done. Gunned it towards the line, but it wasn't quite close enough. They fell just shy of the time of X44, but a brilliant effort by them.
Next up, it was the Acciona Science XC team. Sam's in the car first on the sand, and this is a surface she knows well. They needed a decent drive after the disappointment of that switch zone error in the first qualifying section, and she did a steady job, a safe pair of hands in that car.
I think so, and again, that's just what they needed. They knew they were likely to go through. They'd been mid-pack in the previous session. If they could get mid-pack again with all the problems the other teams were having, it was going to be a decent result. So no fire here, but a solid job.
Absolutely, that's what they needed to do. The car in one piece, so they go in a nice place. And finally, it was the RXR team, our leaders of the championship, Taylor taking the wheel first, then Kristoffersson.
Now, they had a real job to do. They'd suddenly got a sniff of the fact that everybody was playing a little bit safe. They think that they were going to take it safe on the way into the session. Suddenly, Taylor's out there. You know what? A big push. She comes back halfway through the run, and she's only 15 seconds down on Loeb's time. We'd seen Hansen had managed to chase down a 30-second gap. We knew Kristoffersson was capable of a similar performance, and he got to it on a big old push. Fantastic performance by both Taylor and Kristoffersson.
Yeah, time it turns purple, so you know that Kristoffersson is the fastest man out there at this point. And he was going for it, wanted that time, wanted to secure the top spot. And my word, he gave a really impressive display. The concentration on his face.
Yeah, that one mistake on the brakes on the run in there to the end of the super sector launched the car very high indeed. But no problems as they came around towards the end of the run. They were 7 seconds up at this point, and it was an absolutely fantastic performance by them to win Q2.
So let's have a look at the table. Qualifying round 2 done, and it's Taylor and Kristoffersson who get a maximum of 9 points. They were ahead of X44 and the Andretti United team, so a really solid top 3 performance.
Yeah, that performance saw them move a long way up the standings at the end of qualifying. It's X44 who take a 3rd top qualifier spot in a row. Abt Cupra up in P2, and RXR with that amazing run in the 2nd session dragged themselves up into 3rd place. Not enough though to knock X44 off the top spot.